Hey everyone, Sam here. Thanks for joining me. Hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. In this video, I'm taking you on another one of my plein air painting trips, and I'm going to show you a small painting I did outdoors on plein air in my local area. Now, for any of you that have watched any of my videos will see that I do a lot of plein air painting. For me, it's a great way of information gathering, but also I just love being outside anyway and painting outdoors. Now, if you've not tried plein air painting before, I'd definitely give it a try because it really helps to improve your landscape painting skills. And I know maybe it can seem a bit daunting to paint outside, and actually I felt like this as well when I first went painting outdoors. So what I did was I was able to find a meetup group in my local area and painted with a group of people, which was not only really fun, but it just made the whole thing much less intimidating. Also, a lot of plein air painters are really cool people and they'll happily show you how to do things as well. So if you've not tried it, I'd give it a try. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and let's roll the tape. Alright, so I've just arrived at the location that I'm going to paint at. It's a place that I've painted on plein air a few times before, but it's great to paint the same location but in different lights. So this is what I'm going to do here. I've actually got to be pretty quick because it's quite cloudy, but the sun's just popped out for the moment and I think it will look really nice in a painting. So I'm going to get my gear out in the car and just get straight to it. Right, so I've got this is my plein air painting bag. I've got all my gear in there, got my camera as well so I can film it obviously. Now this is the view I'm going to paint. Again, I'm just parked at the side of the road. I just love the sun that's up there, that's surrounded by these quite heavy clouds, so I think this could look really good in a painting. I'm just going to do a small painting here because I just want to capture that information really quickly, so I'm going to get straight into it. Right, so I've got all my gear set up here. I'm using a small pochade box made by a guy called Ben Haggett in the USA, and this is perfect for doing a quick painting. And this is just a 6x8 panel. Now normally I tone these with a layer of burnt sienna, but these only actually arrived in the post yesterday and I haven't had a chance to do it, and I really fancy going out painting this evening. So anyway, here's the colours I'm using. I've got titanium white, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, quinacridone crimson, ultramarine blue and phthalo green. And I'm using oil paint. I've got a bit of liquid here which just thins the paint and it also speeds up the drying time. This is real great stuff to use when you're painting outdoors. Yeah, so I'm going to paint that view. It is quite cloudy, but I'm just going to have a bit of fun with this. So as I said just a moment ago, I'm painting on a 6x8 oil primed linen panel. Now, even though I didn't get a chance to tone it with a layer of burnt sienna, I actually quite enjoyed painting on the white surface for a change. And also I just like that oil primed linen and the way it handles the paint as well when it's applied. This small pochade box is also awesome to paint with. Just the fact that it's so lightweight and so small and compact, it fits in my bag easily. And although it's mainly designed for 6x8 panels, you can also paint 8x10s on it, which for me is a perfect size for painting outdoors. So this is a very useful pochade box. Anyway, I needed to work quickly because the light was changing and it was fast disappearing behind the clouds. I sketched out the composition with a number 1 round brush and burnt sienna mixed with liquid. Now, the thing I wanted to do with this painting was really emphasise the sky, so I've gone for a low horizon with the landscape. I needed to simplify the landscape because there's quite a lot going on and I don't want to overcomplicate the painting, but basically what we've got here is me standing on a hill with a vista in the distance and then some heavy clouds above it. Cool stuff! I've also placed a couple of trees in the foreground to give the landscape painting a sense of scale. After sketching out my composition, the main thing I did next was to identify where the dark values and shadows are in the landscape. Now, of course, it's all in shadow because the sun's disappeared behind the clouds, but I'm specifically looking for those darker values. Now the clouds are definitely one of them, and I start by painting the clouds, mainly as I'm going to use the clouds to gauge the rest of the values within the painting, so this is going to be my marker. I use a number 5 flat brush and I mix a combination of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna and titanium white. I also introduce a little bit of quinacridone crimson into the mix to give that mixture a violet tint. Now when you combine ultramarine blue and burnt sienna together, you can create some really nice natural looking greys. This is because burnt sienna is actually a dark orange and orange is opposite to blue on the colour wheel. So also when we combine these colours with white, this is where we can create these neutral greys. I always edge the mixture more on the blue side so that these clouds have a blue cast to them, just because there's a danger if you use too much burnt sienna that the colour can start looking muddy. So I quickly knock in the main bulk of those cloud shadows, and then the next tier of depth are those distant hills. Now because those distant hills and trees are far into the distance, the green that's in them's pretty much dropped out, so it's actually got a blue cast to it. So here I'm able to use the same colours I use for the clouds, but with just less titanium white, and this is going to make the value darker. It's also going to make those distant hills look natural because I'm using the same colours that I used in the clouds. So I'm trying to also maintain colour harmony throughout the painting by using similar colours. And this is why it helps to use a limited palette, because you're more likely to use those common colours throughout your painting. I personally find that using a more limited palette is less confusing as well. So we marked in these areas, and now the next thing I'm going to mark in are those trees in the foreground, and this is where the darkest values are. Now trees normally are the darkest values to be found in the landscape, not only because often the colour of the foliage is quite dark anyway, but you get a lot of occlusion shadows within them where there's just no light passing through at all. So this can create some really dark accents. Now I'm painting these trees in the foreground first because I'm going to use the same colour mix after to paint the midground trees, as I'm going to make the value a little lighter so that it sits in the midground. So the colours I used for the tree in the foreground was a mix of yellow oxide with ultramarine blue, and I've also allowed the burnt sienna that I used to sketch out the tree to mix in with those colours as well. I've kept the mixture so it's got more of a green cast to it. Then when it comes to painting those trees in the midground, I've just mixed in a little bit of titanium white to my existing mix, and that's just going to make that colour a little bit lighter. Now value refers to how light or dark a subject is, and you'll find your darkest darks in the foreground. Yet as landforms, hills and trees recede into the distance, those darks become lighter. I painted these shadows in very quickly because the main thing I wanted to do was paint the sun that was partially behind the clouds before the sun disappeared altogether. Now once I'd marked in the sun on my canvas, it didn't matter that it disappeared because I've already got that information down. The sun here is the lightest value in the painting, and this is a mix of titanium white with a little bit of cadmium yellow. Then surrounding the sun where those clouds are, there's some pinkish orange tones there. So I've used combinations of yellow oxide with a little burnt sienna, titanium white and quinacridone crimson. For those distant oranges on the clouds, I've used mainly titanium white with burnt sienna. And as I said earlier, burnt sienna is actually a dark orange, and you can see it when you mix it with titanium white, especially when you use it for painting distant clouds, as the clouds will then have an orange glow to them. Clouds also tend not to be as bright when they're in the distance and are likely to have more orange light on them. This is because those lights get a little bit darker. So we're not going to find our lightest lights in the distance either, with the exception of the sun of course. I also painted some lighter tones within the clouds, and this is a mix of titanium white with a little bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna within it. Once I've got those main colours within the clouds, I just spent a little bit of time just blending in some of those areas, making them look like there's some heavy clouds with a possible rain front coming in the distance. I then painted some of those distant fields where, again, the green had pretty much dropped out, and this was a mix of yellow oxide with ultramarine blue and a lot of titanium white. The colour saturation has completely dropped out at this distance. The next major zone to work on is the grass in the midground and the foreground. Now all of this was in shadow, which in some ways made it easier to paint. This was mainly a mix of yellow oxide with some ultramarine blue, a little phthalo green and titanium white. And then as I moved forward in the painting, I increased the saturation by mixing in a small amount of cadmium yellow into the existing mix. In some places, mainly in the foreground, I also introduced a bit of cadmium orange into the mix as well, just to harmonise the green. It makes it look more natural. Now when you paint grass, keep in mind that the value of grass is generally a lot lighter than the value of the trees. And you'll definitely need to make the value of that grass lighter if you want those trees to stand out. Skies, grass and fields are generally some of the lighter values you'll find in the landscape, whereas trees are much darker. When I painted the grass in the midground, I then moved on to the trees that I missed in the midground as well, so I've painted those in, and this is a combination of yellow oxide, ultramarine blue, and then also a little bit of cadmium yellow to increase the saturation. I've then also rounded off that colour with either quinacridone crimson or cadmium orange. And I've varied some of these colour mixtures a little bit just to add interest to the trees in the midground overall. Finally, I'm marking the grass in the foreground, and this is where I've used a slightly more saturated green, as we'll find our most saturated colours in the foreground. I've also marked in a few areas of straw coloured grass, and what I did here was I mixed in more yellow oxide, a little titanium white, and some quinacridone crimson into the existing green mix. There's also a bit of cadmium orange in there too. Once I'd marked in all the major zones in the painting, I then went back over it just to tidy up areas and restate the darks. Also, the other thing I needed to do was make the sun, the main light source in the painting, lighter in value. And what I decided to do here was wipe off some of the existing paint and reapply a lighter value colour. And it was still titanium white with a little bit of cadmium yellow mixed in. I made sure also to apply the paint quite thickly as well, especially as it's a light value colour. This is because also I want to make sure that it reflects the light when it's dry. After tidying up the trees in the painting and restating some of those dark values, I finish it off by just adding in a few cows, which I really like doing with these rural scenes as it just adds to the story and adds life and interest overall to the painting. Now quite often recently when I've been painting outdoors, I've been adding more detail to them in the studio, but in this case I decided to leave this painting as it is. I personally liked the loose painterly brushwork that I'd done with this painting, and I was happy with the way that I'd captured the mood and atmosphere of the evening. Now when I finished this painting, it was as I was packing up that the sun was setting and there's this beautiful orange glow in the distance. And on the spur of the moment, I was like, I'm going to see if I can quickly paint it. So I quickly set up another 6x8 panel on my pochade box and was able to use a lot of the colours that I'd already mixed. Now I had to be really quick to capture the light here, and I'd already packed up my camera by that point, so unfortunately I didn't film it, but I did film it at the end with my iPhone just to show you what the painting looks like, and I'll show you an image of the painting at the end of the video, but I literally knocked this out in about 20 minutes. So it just goes to show that these 6x8 panels can be really useful if you just want to knock out a quick painting in order to capture the information of the scene you're painting, especially when the light is changing so quickly, such as a sunset for example. Painting outdoors, as well as being such an enjoyable experience, is also all about information gathering, because we can use these paintings as reference for studio paintings, or even to just add more details to them in the studio. All up, I really believe painting outdoors will help you to improve your painting skills, and it will make you understand the colours and values in the landscape much better. So I would definitely give plein air painting a try. It's really good fun. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Also, please leave me a comment in the comments section below. Now, if you'd like to learn more about painting, then check out the painting resources I have on my website at samuelerp.com. I've got loads of free written painting tutorials that you can copy, follow along, and use the reference photos as well, which I've provided. I also have full-length painting tutorial videos available for sale from my website. Now, you can get instant access to all of my full-length painting tutorial videos by subscribing to me on Patreon for just $5 a month or $51 for an annual subscription. And if you take out the annual subscription, you save 15%. So as I say, you get instant access to all of the full-length painting tutorial videos, and you get a new video every month. And what I'm doing with Patreon is I want to turn it into a big painting resource for anybody that wishes to learn to paint or improve their painting skills. And as well as the videos, I also provide reference photos and lesson notes if you'd like to copy the paintings that are in the videos. So check that out. I've put the link in the description box below. Now, if you're an artist or creative and you would like to make your own website, then check out portfoliobox.net. It's an online website builder where you can create your own beautiful website to showcase your work to the highest standard. It's really easy to use, and there's loads of styles and templates for you to choose from. You don't need to know how to code, as the whole thing works through drag and drop. Now, you can start building your website right away, and then when you want it to go live, just choose the plan that you wish to purchase. And right now, Portfolio Box are offering a 50% discount on any of their plans for the first year by typing in the discount code SAMERP50, and I've put the link and the discount code in the description box below. Now, if you'd like to see what artworks I'm working on, then you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and also my other website, samuelerfineart.com, which is just to showcase my paintings. And incidentally, this was built on the Portfolio Box platform, and I am very happy with the results. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope it inspires you to have a go at plein air painting and get your paintbrushes out. Have a beautiful day, and I shall see you in the next video.